So, so hello, Elaine. It's great to have you with us today.
Well, thank you very much, Melita. I'm so happy to be on this call with you today.
And I love that you're here because we've been part of your community now for a long time. And I love all the tips you share and the inspiration and the space you've given to all these wonderful fempreneurs out there. But I would like to start, as I start every podcast, if you could share a little bit about your business journey to date.
Well, I've had a very long business journey. I started in the UK and I worked for Ferrari for my first job. And then I moved to Canada and I worked in the steel industry and then took a sabbatical when I had my two children and then joined a welding manufacturing company at the lowest level I could possibly be, which was the assistant to the president, and gradually worked my way up over quite a few years to be the CEO in Canada of the same company.
Wow, that's quite a journey.
Yeah, it was. And a lot of different things in between, yeah.
So what was it that made you go from having this high-flying corporate career that you work so hard to, you don't reach that CEO position without a lot of hard work and effort along the way. So what made you move from that into running your own business?
Well, I think if you've been working in a corporate environment for the same company over a long period of time, and for me it was close to probably 28 years, that I felt at that point it was a little bit repetitious because you're doing the same things over and over again, sometimes for different bosses and so on and so forth. And, I wanted a different challenge. And so I thought that at this stage in my life, I'd like to try something completely different and to give back to the community for women entrepreneurs in particular, because I didn't have time and I had a corporate position to do the give back. And I thought, what can I do to give back to the community? And I thought, well, I've been in marketing my whole life. Why don't you try and do something on the marketing side to help a different category of entrepreneur?
So what was it about? Was it difficult? Because you started you built up your career in a very masculine environment, and then you start your own business in marketing advice.
Yes.
And mostly for female entrepreneurs. Was that a conscious decision to do that?
Well, at first it wasn't a conscious decision. I thought when I started out as an entrepreneur that I would naturally have more male clients, but then I started to network and I realized that it was the women that had all the questions and concerns about how to market themselves and brand themselves. And so I realized in my own entrepreneurial journey that my target market was completely different than what I had imagined when I started out.
Yeah, I had something similar, that when I was starting my business, I started out working with corporates, but through the networking, and it became a bit of an obsession because I just saw so many talented and passionate women who get amazing results for their clients. They just had no idea how to get enough of them. And that seemed to be a big knowledge gap that I was like, I can help them with that. And it became more of a passion than my previous businesses. I was like, okay, this is the way I've got to go. And since doing that pivot, then it's given me so much more energy and creativity, and it's all come together in just beautiful ways, which I'm loving. So do you think it was a sort of conscious pivot for you once you started your business into that market? Did it feel like that at the time?
Well, at first I was a bit surprised, but then I got passionate because, as you say, you could see that the women that were starting businesses were so keen to get going. And then I became more passionate about helping them, mentoring, especially the young group. I have done a lot of mentoring for the under 40s who had the great business ideas but didn't have the experience of how to actually launch them and how to do it in a way that I knew how to do, because in a corporation, that's what happens. You're very structured. You go A, B, C, D. You have all the different interacting departments in a really well-run business. And I knew how all the parts should work together.
Mm.
So I think that was a few years into it where I decided that I should maybe write a book to help women get started in business and do it from a women's perspective, because it is a little different, and included 30 women entrepreneurs in the book to help illustrate the different points in the book so it wasn't so boring, because they could give, they could give their advice and what they ran into. And I think it's important for women to understand it from the perspective of somebody else's experience. Women tend to relate better to that than something that's just plain ink and paper, if you know what I mean. If they can see themselves in the person's narrative, then they learn it better that way. So
Yeah, I know when I was working in corporate, I set up a women's network within the bank where I worked, because I never felt held back by being a woman in business when I was in the UK. But as soon as I moved to Geneva, it was a whole different thing. I mean, I still didn't feel held back because I didn't have that mindset. But I saw that there were just pockets of women, and they just didn't feel comfortable standing up for themselves and self-promote. It was very much of this, oh, if I work really hard, someone will notice and I'll get my promotion. But it doesn't work like that. So I created this women's network. But the one thing I realized there is the power of role models for women. And we still don't have enough. And that's something that I'm really hoping with this podcast to bring to more female entrepreneurs, are some amazing female role models that they can go and learn from on this podcast, but then go and stalk and follow and, and learn from, because there are so many amazing women achieving a lot of great things out there, but it's not always visible. And I think following a woman's path is more inspiring for a woman than following a man's path, because it doesn't always feel like you could do the same thing in the same way. And there may be slight differences, but if a woman's done it before, then I think it's that little bit more encouraging. I don't know if I'm being completely sexist in saying that, but certainly how it feels from my perspective anyway. So yeah, I think that's great that you're out there providing that and role modeling for women as well, and mentoring them, which is so important.
Well, I think you brought up an excellent point, Melita, because I think a lot of standing up for myself, I learned in the corporate world in a male business environment, because you were definitely in the minority. In our management group, there were a lot fewer women. And therefore, one of the things that I found, and I think even as an entrepreneur, you need to have this. It's not just a corporate thing, but you need to have both a mentor and a sponsor. So there's a difference. The mentor helps you with your problem solving, and your sponsor is the person who helps open doors for you. So I think women in business, as an entrepreneur, don't isolate yourself. Make sure that you're in a network of like kind of people that have the same ethic that you do. They could be in your industry, they could not be in your industry, but people who can guide and help open doors for you, and you're going to do the same for them. So it's a reciprocal arrangement.
Yeah.
Without a mentor and a sponsor in my corporate life, I would never, I can guarantee, never have got to the position that I got to, because I worked in Canada. Our main office was in the United States. And the people in the United States, we had 5,000 people all around the world working. They didn't know what you did, really. And I had a sponsor in a person in our own division that worked closely with the head office. And so when they were looking for people to do different things, she would mention my name because we worked well together, and I would implement a lot of stuff, and she knew she could count on me. So so it's the same in an entrepreneurial world. If people like and trust you and know that you do a good job and are your sponsor, they're going to open up opportunities for you to do different things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I always encourage my clients and to set up a success circle, which is, I think, is similar to what you're saying. It
Hmm.
could only be like 2 or 3 other people who you
Yeah.
can turn to for advice and for help, and for whom you're willing to do the same, so that you
Yeah.
have these inspiring people around you at all times, and there's always someone you can turn to who you trust to help you. And I always have these, like, I tend to have this cycle of 2-week wobble moments, and where it's like, yeah, everything's going great in my business, and then also you have this panic moment. What am I doing? Can I really do this? And then that's the moment where having these people around you is a great moment. I mean, you can have things like success journals and meditation, which of course helps with these things, but having a real person there to remind you and pull you out of these moments is really powerful, because otherwise you can really go down quite quickly.
Well, that's the thing. And right now around the world, everybody is self-isolating at the moment. And it's important, to have that network and to bring the live events online to keep supporting the entrepreneur network. So just because we are in a different situation at the moment, I'd say don't stop communicating, don't stop networking, but just do it differently. Do it online instead of in person, and make sure you touch base with your clients, and keep the touch points going, because we all need it right now, for
Yeah.
sure.
I mean,
Hmm.
every successful business is based on relationships,
Yes.
and now we actually have more opportunity than ever to reach out to people at a time when they really need it as well, and make a difference.
Yes. Yes.
So I want to
Totally.
come back to this idea of online business in a moment, because I know that's something that you're really strong on. But before we do that, though, I'm curious. You've been in business for a long time now, and I was wondering, how have you seen the sort of landscape for entrepreneurs changing over that time? Has it changed, or has there been a shift that you've noticed?
Well, I think the basics of business haven't changed. Have a strong business, you have to have a great idea, but you have to have a really good business plan to launch that idea. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm definitely not a fan of perfection, but you do have to get organized so that you have at least a base to start. Like, you often hear today that you don't really need a business plan. I mean, who wants a business plan? It's going to change anyway. But my thinking is that you need to have a structure from which to start. Yes, the minute you start your business, your plan is going to change. But what you do is pivot the plan, go in a different direction, and then keep measuring the results. Because if you're not looking at the business and you're just working in the business, but you're not like taking a good overview of it once a month, you have no clue whether you're making money, you're not making money, what can you change, what should you change, you need more sales, you need to cut your expenses. I mean, these are all relevant things personified right now. So you should be looking at your business and thinking, okay, well, what can I do differently to have a different result?
Yeah.
So I think the fundamentals of business are still the same. You're not going to be successful if you don't plan and you don't check it, take the thermometer of your business at least once a month, so that you know what's going on, what the trends are, and how to pivot to either have more sales, cut back expenses, whatever you need to do to create that profit, because that's the whole idea. You have to generate income in your business. So that's definitely one that hasn't changed. But I think the thing, of course, that has changed the most is technology, how we deliver services, whether it is, say, for example, your retail store. Not only are you a retail store these days, but often you're an online business as well, with an online shop fulfilling orders that way. And if you're a service, you might start out by delivering the service in person. But for example, if you're in the computer repair business, or that kind of support services, a lot of that can be done online now, whereas before it wasn't. So, you can do troubleshooting, you can do teaching you. You can do so many things online that were not online before. So it can expand the way you're doing business. And now businesses are inventing more ways to do it online, especially right now. If you're a yoga instructor, if you are a dietitian, any of the services that you might have done in a group class in person, you can do now online. So that's a big change, I think, with technology, YouTube, podcasting like this. It's changed the world completely, I think, technology.
It's on one hand, it's really exciting because there's so many new possibilities and you can always create new ones as well. But on the other hand, it can get a bit overwhelming at times because like there's just so much to do. And when you start out, you think, yeah, I'm just going to do a little sales funnel. And then you realize, oh, first I need this. And oh, first I need that. And it's a bit of a rabbit hole. But I guess the best thing to do is just take it one step at a time.
Yes, and you know, you can get overwhelmed because different people are overwhelming your inbox with things like you need this, you need that, you need the other, and then you get totally confused and you're in a circle of not knowing what you should do. And I always say, start out simply. You don't need things like Infusionsoft at $200 a month to run your CRM. You can do it very simply with something like a free version of MailChimp, build your list that way and create your funnel there. And then if you have thousands of people in your funnel and you want to segregate it in a million different parts, for example, that might be the time that you want to go to something like that. But for every technology out there to help you, there's also a learning curve for you to learn that technology. So you have to factor that into it too, that you're going to have a learning curve. The more complex and more robust and more fancy the technology is, the longer the learning curve for it. So I'm saying you don't have to do that, especially if you're transitioning your business from something you know, that you used to do in person and you're transitioning it online. Just start with the simple thing first and then build up as that base of business grows. Otherwise, you're creating a huge expense for yourself before you have the income to support it. So I would go the other way around. Start with something simple and then build it as the people come.
Yeah, I think that's amazing advice. And I'm chanting to myself a lot of time, how could this be simpler? How can I do this in a better sort of step-by-step way? Because I have a tendency to have a big idea and then just jump in. And I've learned the hard way that, yeah, as you said, there's a learning curve attached to everything. And you've got to factor that in as well and not jump in too soon and waste a lot of time and effort and money in the process as well. So I think that's brilliant advice, which brings us nicely into my question that I was going to come to about how can people start to move their business online and build a real online business?
Well, the first thing to do before you even if you don't even have a website, is to make sure that your website, the words on it, the pictures on it, everything is related to the audience and what they need. It's not, a lot of people say, well, I have this product and I have that product and I want it on my website. But really, to get people interested in your product, it has to be helpful to them. So your landing page needs to have those aspects to it. What is the benefit to them of your service? That's the most paramount thing. And then you build your website around that. Because most of the brands, and if you follow Simon Sinek, it's the why. People want to know why you're in business, who you're helping. It's not about the products. You know, he compares in his great book and on his TEDx talk for branding is start with the why you're in business. Why are you passionate about what you're delivering, whether it's yoga, whether it's you know, helping people lose weight, if it's dressing them the right way, whatever your service is, there's a reason why you're selling that particular product. For example, we take clothes. There's a huge spectrum in clothes. So you've got high end and you've got low end. So you need to know who you're appealing to and why. You know, are you appealing to people with a small budget? Are you appealing to people that want to look fabulous and have you know, unlimited budget? Because there's two completely different things. So when you're launching your website, you need to be clear where you are in your online business and who is the kind of customer who's going to be buying the product that you're selling. So that's what you start with. You start with the why, not the why you're doing it. And Simon Sinek talks about the difference between Dell computers and Apple computers and how they approach the marketing.
Yeah.
And it's totally different. And so you have people that are very loyal to the Apple brand. And it's not really because the Apple products are any different, say, than the Dell products, but it's the way they've marketed it to people. The same with Nike. I mean, you look at the Nike brand logo, it's nothing. It's just a tick, a curved tick, that's it. So people obsess a lot on the wrong things. Like they spend, say, thousands of dollars on their logo and all that kind of thing, which is the wrong emphasis. It's nothing to do with that. You can have the simplest logo, the Starbucks logo, the mermaid. What really is it? What relationship is that to coffee? Not really anything. Because it's not about the coffee, it's the way the Starbucks treat you when you go into a Starbucks. They call you, they put your first name on the coffee cup, they call you out by name, and so on and so forth. It's the feeling. And that's what Simon Sinek is saying. When you're developing your brand, and especially your online brand, you need to think of the feeling more than anything. And don't obsess about what your product, you know, the advantages of your product in the sense, in like a toolkit, like it's got this, it's got that, the other. Sure it does, but that's not why people are buying it. There's hundreds of things that are very similar. So how do you stand out? You have to create that in your branding and on your website and in your online store. What kind of feel you have? And that's very individual for every entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You don't want to be, it's not a cookie cutter. Well, so-and-so's like that, like the Gwyneth Paltrow line is like that, so I'm going to be like that. Well, if it doesn't fit you, then that's the wrong thing, you know. That's the other thing before you launch a website, and I often say this to clients, send me to a website that you think is really good for your kind of business. So I had a lawyer lately that asked me to help her with her website. So she sent me a lawyer's website in Seattle. And now this particular client of mine is in Canada. And I understood why that lady, the lawyer, liked the one in Seattle, because it spoke to you. Whereas the lady in Canada, her website didn't speak to her clients. So that's what I mean. Like when you're doing an online business, think about your clients, not about what you're delivering in the nuts and bolts of it. This particular lady is a divorce lawyer. So, I mean, there's hundreds of divorce lawyers, right? But when I started speaking to her, I realized that she had a unique ability that wasn't coming across in her website. And I said to her, so that's what we've got to get when we revamp the wording on your website. It has to be the feel, so that when customers look at your website, they pick you because they find an empathy with you right away. And that's what you want to create, because you're trying to create the trust and like for people to buy from you. And that's how you do that online. You have to create what you would say in person, to your client, and create that in your online copy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of times people forget that they're creating their website and they just create something that can go out to everybody, but it's not. It's a one-to-one relationship you're building, because you're one person interacting with your website and your content at a time, and that's how you want to pitch it. And I used to train communicators for a long time in how to write for the web and how to communicate. And it was always that, you know, you have to remember, this is not your message. This is it belongs to them. So you have to talk to
Yes.
that person and make sure that they, as you say, they feel something, because sales is
Mm-hmm.
always emotional. And whether it's sales in terms of an exchange of money, or sales as in them buying into an idea or a concept or
Yes.
anything else, it's still sales, and it has to have that emotional connection as the start
Yes.
point of a relationship. If you don't
Yes.
feel it, if you go out to a networking event and someone's just a bit weird, then you're going to keep your distance. So you want to make
Yes.
sure that you have that connection and that empathy, as you say. So that's amazing
Yeah.
advice. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes. I think that's the biggest mistake that people make. Just as you said, you're communicating one-on-one with people. So your website has to do that. And you're going to get your customers, pulling them in one by one. And I think you also have to remember that that's the starting point. So when you're creating your brand, your online brand, it has to be a total reflection of the service that you're going to give them all the way through.
Yeah.
So, if you say you're going to do something, you need to do it when you say you're going to do it. You have to walk the talk that you have on your website.
Yeah.
So don't make overachieving promises that you can't keep, because you're going to break that trust right away.
Yeah. It's really important to create the experience you want your brand to
Yes.
have, and really to manage that. I mean, build that
Yes.
into your planning. How exactly
Yes.
am I going to create that connection with my clients and that experience at each stage of the brand promise, and deliver that? And how am I going to track that and make sure that it always happens consistently for everybody? And it can be very simple. That might sound a bit complicated, but just keeping things simple, as you say, along the way is going to build a stronger brand than if you overcomplicate things too soon.
Yes. I totally agree 100% with what you're saying. Totally. Yes. And I think that's the problem, that people obsess about the color and the packaging and all that, but that's not what's important. It's how you're treating the customer that's way more important. Of course, yes, your products have to be good, but they don't have to be the very best of the very best, because people aren't expecting that, but they're expecting the very best of the way they're treated, of the way they're talked to, the way that the communication goes. That's what the experience is what they're looking for more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a nice compliment as well, because so many businesses are moving online, and now with the recent events, then it's even more important than ever to create that experience and that emotional connection, because it's very easy to lose that.
Yes, you can lose it in a heartbeat. You can lose it in just one, because bad news spreads faster than good news.
Yeah.
So, and with the online referrals, online reviews, you have to be more than ever careful about how you treat your customers. And that's the other thing. If you are building an online business and people are searching for you online, that's an important part. Make sure you have a Google My Business page, which is free, and that when you have a happy customer, you ask them if they would mind giving you a review on Google and on LinkedIn. So build that in, so that people that are looking for you, which you may not know they're looking for you on Google, you may not know that they're looking for you on Yelp or any of the other review base, or on Amazon, or wherever you can review people, or LinkedIn, you have no idea that they're searching for it. So if you have no reviews of any kind anywhere, nothing on Amazon, nothing if you're writing a book, nothing on LinkedIn, nothing on Yelp, nothing on Google My Business, then people are just thinking, well, who are they? What kind of business are they if nobody's reviewed how good they are, right? So it's important to get out in front of that too.
Yeah, that social proof is so powerful.
It is. It's huge today.
Yeah. Elaine, you have shared so much gold today. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing all the wealth of experience and some real nuggets that I hope everyone's been taking good notes. before we sign off completely, I'd love it if there's, or is there one piece of advice more than anything else, or encouragement that you would like to give to the listeners out there who are busy building their businesses right now?
Well, I think on reflection, it's probably not the question, the answer that I was going to give you, but on reflection, I think I would say, don't be a perfectionist. Just make sure that you're serving your community in whatever business you have, whether it's a service or a product, and make that the focal point of your business. And then let everything else happen around that. But don't wait to launch your business till everything is perfect, because it will never be perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
And not to doubt yourself. If you have a good idea and you've thrown it around with a lot, some people to review your idea and so on. And if the majority say that's a great idea on your sounding board committee, or who you're using as your advisory panel, then go for it and don't hesitate. You can always change and correct it later on. Even in the corporate world, I used to say that if we had people that weren't sure about something, or were afraid to do something, I'd say, this is not rocket science. If you make the wrong decision, we can change it. I mean, you just look at the news today. People are changing direction all the time. And the reason they're doing that is because they just don't know. Yeah. So they come out one day with one piece of advice, and tomorrow or next week they have a different piece of advice. It's not that the first piece of advice was wrong. It's just that they know more now. So they're changing and pivoting what they're saying. So it's exactly the same in your business. You start out with one thing, and then you move it gradually to into a different direction depending on where the market is.
Yeah, and that's certainly something I've learned, is that where you start is never where you end up, because you learn and grow so much along the way. And usually your first idea, after 12 months, you kind of laugh, you think, gosh, that was so small. Once you have a bit of experience and you've learned more and you trust yourself more, you start to dream bigger, and then you achieve more as well, which is very exciting.
Yes, totally. Yes.
Great. Well, thank you again so much for your time, Elaine. One last question. How can people find you?
Well, they can find me on my website, which is the letter X, the letter L, consultinggroup.com. And then I have a sister website called FAB, F-A-B, Fempreneurship, F-E-M-P-R-E-N-E-U-R ship.com. So that particular one is the community where I have all the podcasts, the book, the tips, the courses. And then the Excel Consulting one is the marketing one for getting businesses up online, helping with product launches, project launches, and that kind of stuff.
Fantastic. And I'll add those links below so people can just click on them and go straight through and find you. Thanks, Elaine, and have a wonderful week.
Thank you, Melita. That was a wonderful exchange. It was great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.